It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP as we see it, a syndicated weekly 1-hour show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, and the national scene and other sports. Welcome to AP as we see it. And this week, one of the sports we're going to be talking about, I call it a sport, is the NFL draft. I'm here live in Milwaukee, headed to Green Bay tomorrow for the NFL 2025 NFL draft. So we'd like for people to be aware of our social media platforms because we'll be having all those interviews of the players that are invited to the NFL draft this year in Green Bay for the very first time. They're live here in Green Bay for the NFL draft. And that's on our social media YouTube channel, AP as we see it. And sometimes you could catch things as well on AP Stedham. And then we have our social media platforms on Facebook, both the show platform and the personal, and the Instagram, both on that as well, and the X account. And we archive every show on Spotify. So you can check those out every week on our social media platforms at AP as we see it and at AP Stedham. We'd like to thank our sponsors who are so critical to our show, Greer's Markets. 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. Check those out. We have Lucy's Famous Recipes. You can check online. She has those available to everyone, and she has a book that she sells in the store and online as well. And always go to the groceries to go, where you can order the Greer's groceries, have them delivered to your home, your office, or any venue. I think they also do the curbside delivery outside the store if you order them and pick them up. So that's something that's convenient for their patrons and customers. Check the weekly online specials. They have the Mardi Gras, Mardi Gras went past, but they have all the special occasions, the holidays, the birthdays, the anniversaries, all those great days for people that they celebrate. You can look at Greer's Markets and groceries to go and buy all those things for special occasions. You can get all the delicious food and the dinner essentials and the fresh produce and the snacks at unbeatable prices. They have the coloring contest for the children monthly, so that's fun for them as well. And remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We also like to thank our other sponsor, Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia, downtown Atlanta. Spacious rooms, beautiful rooms. They have the indoor pool with the tropical setting inside. It's serene. It's has that vegetation around. It's great to be at the indoor pool. Awesome setting there. It's right in the heart of Atlanta, the downtown Atlanta. All the attractions are nearby. You have the restaurants in the hotel. Great food in the evening, and then the breakfast. They'll cook it to order. I think it's on the weekends, but they have a terrific buffet that I've eaten many, many times, and outstanding breakfast. And so visit with Ben Jacquemour and staff. They'll take care of you. They're so hospitable. I always stay there in Atlanta. That's the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. So we want to also let you know about our guests, segment 2 and 3, Jay Jacobs, Athletic Director, Auburn University, Emeritus now, and he has a new consulting firm, AD Advisors, that they're in support of athletic administrations. You can use their services. So we're going to have a nice conversation about the wild, wild west of college athletics with Jay Jacobs. He's very experienced. And for those at Auburn, that he's the person who hired Bruce Pearl. And of course, Bruce Pearl had so much success at the Final Four, reaching that twice. The only coach in Auburn history to reach that status, the Final Four this past year in San Antonio and in Minneapolis a few years ago. But we're going to have Jay Jacobs as our guest in segment 2 and 3. So now we're going to proceed with the show. Some of the topics we're going to talk. Our first one is going to be about the draft. I'm here in Milwaukee getting ready to go to Green Bay. And this is the first time it's ever been in Green Bay. It was in New York for about 50 years. Then they started alternating locations I've been all across the country. The only 2 times I missed was Dallas and Philadelphia. I had to help some people reach the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, so I couldn't cover the draft. But we are here in Milwaukee. We'll be in Green Bay for Thursday and Friday evening. The draft will be held in Green Bay, Lambeau Field, legendary field in the annals of NFL, the NFL, and American football history. But we want to let people know about the SEC. In the last half dozen years, they've reigned supreme, and it's really been, I think it's going to be 18 years if it's this year, if they have the most draft choices by a conference. But just to let you know about their superior talent in the league, 2019, 64 players were taken from the SEC, 64 players. And for instance, the Big Ten was in second, there were 40. So that's a disparity of 24 players. In 2020, it was 63 from the SEC, 48 from the Big Ten. And I'm using the Big Ten as an example because there's in second place. That's 15, minus 15. When you consider the Big Ten, how many athletes were selected from that conference. 2021, 65 and 44. 65 from the SEC, 44 from the Big Ten. That's 21, a minus 21. The following year, the same number, 65. I think that is the record. 2 successive years. I believe that is for a conference, 65. And there were 48 in the Big Ten. So that's a minus 17. So it improves to some degree. Then you had in 2023, there were 62 from the SEC and 55 from the Big Ten. So they're catching up that particular 2023. 2024 was 59 and then back down to 42 for the Big Ten. That was a minus 17. But in 2024, believe it or not, the Pac-12, the league that has disintegrated, had 43. So that was an interesting number from the year 2024. 59, 43 from the Pac-12, 42 from the Big Ten. So that's just some history of the last half dozen years. That's kind of relevant. Most players, they can't remember 3 years ago. They think that's historical, which it is technically. But when we think of history, we were thinking a decade or so, but we're not going to go back that far. Then we have 8 players out of the 15, and that's the lowest number that I've seen since I've been covering the draft. 15 players at this point of the broadcast have accepted an invitation, and 8 of those 15 are from the SEC. We'll start at the top here, 3 from Alabama, Tyler Booker, offensive guard, Jahad Campbell, linebacker, and Jalen Milroe, quarterback. Those 3 are from Alabama. We have Will Campbell, offensive lineman, probably an offensive tackle from LSU. He could play inside as well, I'm hearing, but right now listed as an offensive tackle, Will Campbell out of LSU. Then we have from Texas, Matthew Golden, a wide receiver. We have Maxwell Harrison, a cornerback from Kentucky, and Malachi Starks from Georgia, defensive back. And we have Shamar Stewart, a defensive end from Texas A&M. So those are the 8 players representing the Southeastern Conference with invitations to the NFL draft. And I always tell players that I come across not only to accept the invitation if they're on the fence, if they're trying to decide, but stay until you're drafted. Because sometimes maybe they're projected for the first round and their name is not called that night and they become disgruntled. But they shouldn't become too unhappy because millions of people would love to be in their position. I tell them to come back the next day and take that walk across the stage where they can greet the commissioner and have that for the rest of their life. They can show their family. But some players, and maybe, I don't know if it's their agent coaxing them, they decide to leave if they're not selected on the first day and they've been invited to be present at the NFL draft location. But you're missing out, and it's something that you'll look back with regret. And I've had players stay, and they're usually, a lot of times they're drafted in the first 10 on the second day, which is round 2. On the second day on Friday, it's round 2 and round 3. But I would say don't lose hope, and it's your moment. Not many people get invited to the NFL draft. As we saw this year, 15 accepted an invitation. Others made plans to celebrate on the university or college campus, or maybe go to their hometown. But my advice has always been stay until you're drafted. And I know that the cameras, they're actually looking for drama. I've been behind the scenes to some degree, and they're always looking for drama. But you should have the biggest smile on your face anytime the camera is pointed in your direction, because, as I said, millions of people and more would love to be in your position to be a candidate drafted in the first, second, third round of the NFL draft, or just be drafted, or just have a free agency chance. As we've seen, Mr. Irrelevant is the last selection in the draft. I know those folks out in Newport Beach, California. They're always inviting me to that event. Someday I'll attend in June. But we've seen Brock Purdy, the last player selected, is an NFL starting quarterback. And I'm sure if he was invited to the draft that year, which he was not, because he was projected as to be taken in the lower rounds, he would be smiling. But anyway, we're going to get on to our next segment with our special guest, Jay Jacobs, Auburn University Athletic Director Emeritus, founding partner, AD Advisors. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it, and we have a very special guest. We're going to delve into some subject matters concerning college athletics. We have a real pro with us, Jay Jacobs, former Auburn University Athletics Director Emeritus right now. And he's also the founding partner of AD Advisors, a consulting firm that provides athletics departments with support. Hey, Jay, welcome to AP as we see it.
AP, it is great to see you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Not too many people say that, Jay. Great to see you.
Well, I mean it. We've known each other for a long time. It's a blessing to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Jay. Hey, Jay, this college athletics, it's the Wild West. That's my description. The first time I was really looking into this situation, and I'll continue to use those words. Maybe you have the same feeling, but Jay, this NIL business, what are some of the guidelines you perceive that they're going to try to enact either through Congress or the NCAA or both?
Well, we wish Congress would get involved so that we could have collective bargaining with these student athletes. That doesn't seem like that's going to be the case right now. But once the House case is settled, hopefully here in the next few weeks, then the NIL, the majority of that will come through the athletics department. And so there'll be a little bit more control over, what student athletes receive and who they get it from. But right now, the Wild Wild West is a great way to describe it, because prior to that case being solved, most universities, or those that are being real aggressive, are trying to stockpile NIL contracts with these student athletes, so that when the House case does kick in, they will be ahead of it. And it's a very challenging time. That, along with the transfer portal, makes it very difficult to build team camaraderie and culture and those type things. AP, it's so different, but you know what? Right. It's just a new day, and we have to learn to adjust to it. And eventually, we'll get there. But right now, it just doesn't feel right on a lot of different levels, and I don't think it feels right to the athletes, and I don't think it feels right to the coaches, and I don't think it feels right to the fans. But at some point, the pendulum will swing back to the middle, and college athletics, its leaders, will get this in a really good place for everybody involved, including student athletes.
Jay, I heard you use the term collective bargaining. That sounds like the word employee is not too far behind. Would that be good for college athletics, or you like to remain the student athlete model?
Well, I think that if you could thread the needle where you could have collective bargaining as student athletes, not employees, we can't. We're in no place for these, student athletes. Some, 500 on your campus become employees, and quite frankly, if they dig into that, they don't want to become employees. They would rather have the freedom to roam and do different things. And it just doesn't make much sense. But collective bargaining from the standpoint, AP, of, having some ground rules for
Yes.
the coaches and the players. There are no ground rules right now. And it just makes it so untenable to keep doing college athletics the way we're doing it. What we don't want to do is we don't want to take away this unbelievable learning experience for these student athletes. And we don't want to take away this passion and emotion that we as fans have for the collegiate games. So let's find a way to do this. And the first step is, getting the House settlement finished. And then the next step will be, how do we bring everybody to the table to create some rules and regulations around college athletics? And, there are a lot of really smart people in college athletics. And I think they'll figure out a way to do it where you can have NIL, student athletes can receive money, but there can be some type of culture and team building around that instead of a guy saying he's going to play here today and somewhere else tomorrow. It's most challenging.
It certainly is. Jay, a pet peeve of mine has always been the buyouts, and I just explained the scenario to you, and you can explain to me otherwise. But I believe when Nick Saban was hired at Alabama by Mal Moore, it was for $32 million, 8 years, $4 million per year with no buyout. And my reasoning from an observer outside is that if I'm offering $32 million for a football coach, if they want to leave, I think we can find somebody that will be interested in the other $32 million. I don't care to buy out somebody, have that in the contract if they wanted to leave. I understand that people have different reasons for moving from schools to school, other parts of the country, maybe to the NFL, but I'd rather remain as an athletic director and administration in a program in a university without having to pay a buyout. Where's the defect in my thinking?
So let's just make sure that our audience understands there are two different sides of a buyout. One side of a buyout is if I'm the head coach at a university and
Right.
I want to leave that university, go from University A to University B, there may be a buyout in my contract where I or University B has to pay University A $1 million or $32 million, whatever it is. That's one
Right.
side of a buyout. You have to pay to leave. Okay.
Yes.
The other side of a buyout is that we don't want you anymore.
Yes.
So we're going to terminate your contract and we're going to pay you your buyout. The buyout you're talking about, I couldn't agree more, AP. If somebody, my experience has been, if you don't want to be here, I want it to be easy for you to leave.
Right.
You go ahead and go, because if you don't want to be here, it's not going to be good for either one of us.
Yes.
If you don't want to be here, go ahead and go. And I, like you, we will figure out, who will be the next person, because we do have these funds to do that. So, it's usually a really healthy thing. If people want to leave, they need to go. If you're going to keep me as an employee, whether it's a coach or whatever industry or profession I may be in, you're going to keep me handcuffed to that job. I'm not going to be near as productive. And eventually, as a supervisor, I don't want you around. So I agree with you on the buyout piece of the coach buyout pieces. You know what? If you don't like it here, go find somewhere else. Good luck to you, but we're going to find somebody who wants to be here.
Hey, perfect. Jay, some of these buyouts now are involving the players, but I have not heard if they're enforceable or teams are pursuing it because it would give them a negative connotation to other athletes that would transfer or being recruited out of high school. So have you heard much about the buyout situation with players in these NIL contracts?
The only one that I've heard recently is what is going on at Arkansas. But my experience, and it is somewhat limited because I'm not in college athletics right now as an administrator. We have AD advisors, as you mentioned, that we're here to support athletics departments. But the contracts that I'm familiar with for NIL are paid in arrears. So the student athlete performs a service to get to qualify for NIL, and after that service is performed, they receive that funding. So that's the way it has generally been working. If you're paying somebody up front for something they haven't done, then contractually you need to shore that up, whether it's a student athlete or an employee. There's
Yes.
I can't think of an employee that I would hire that I'd say, you know what, I'm going to give you your first 3 months up front and hope you do the work. That doesn't make any sense. But as long as everybody is of sound mind and sign a contract, it is definitely enforceable. It doesn't matter if you're a student athlete, a doctor, or a CEO, or whatever it is you may be, a professional athlete. The contract is binding, and some people may have to learn a hard lesson from that. That what they signed, people aren't just going to say. Athletics departments aren't going to say, "Don't worry about it." So contract works both ways. It has people in agreement, terms and length, and compensation, and so you have to honor those.
Mm-hmm. Jay, we got about a minute and a half. I'm trying to give you a subject. We'll probably have to continue this in the next segment, but what's the best advice maybe that you would give your son or daughter if they were a student athlete in this era?
My advice to them would be to don't focus on the immediate, focus on the long term. The NIL, these things are transactional. Look for relationships. Look for a place that you can go and build relationships, and that's what we're doing as AD advisors. We're suggesting to athletics departments that you need to create a human resource retention and relationship department for these student athletes. For 100 years, we've been recruiting student athletes to come to our campus, and we've been showing them what coming to our campus would mean from a relationship standpoint. Now, all of a sudden, we're doing NIL and it's transactional. That doesn't mean the relationship part shouldn't still be part of it. So I would tell any of my girls that, look for the long term. What is the relationships and the place that you can gain the most from, and give you the best opportunity to be the best person you can be, not only today, but more importantly in the future.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jay, we're going to come right back after these messages. We're certainly enjoying our conversation with Jay Jacobs, Auburn University Athletics Director Emeritus and founding partner of AD Advisors. So we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it, and our special guest, Jay Jacobs, Auburn University Athletics Director Emeritus, founding partner, AD Advisors. We were discussing college athletics, the wild, wild west. Jay, are you Wyatt Earp and I'm Bill Hickok or something like that, right? Doc Holliday? Something, right? Yeah.
I wouldn't mind being any one of those three back in the day.
Right. That's full command, as they say. They sure did.
No doubt about it. No doubt.
But Jay, another thing that fascinated me when I speak to some people who are in the know, and I know right off, Jay, just to backtrack for a second, I haven't spoken to anybody, Jay, who said, gee, I'm really happy with the way athletics is progressing. They always tell me it is ruining college athletics. I can't get a handful of people that I've spoken to across this country that I travel to say they're happy. So I always tell them, well, if you think this is something with money, wait till you hear me tell this next story, that teams are going to be bought and conferences are going to be bought by countries and hedge funds. And have you been in that world yet, Jay?
I've not been in that world, only on the fringe of that about equity partners. College athletics, particularly if you just look at football, it is a money producing opportunity for some equity partners or some hedge funds, because you're going to sell season tickets every year, and so it's almost a guarantee. I'm not hearing any of the athletics directors or presidents taking that very seriously right now. What I'm hearing from people that I'm talking to and that are working on this, or they're trying to find ways to make sure that they can, if they go fully in on the $20.5 million on NIL, they're
Yes.
finding ways within their current budget to make that work. Now, when I say that, in addition to their current budget, they're also doing a lot from their development officers. They're trying to raise funds to offset some of this NIL, this new expense that is now going to hit the books of every athletics department in the nation that decides to, be a part of NIL. They opt in, particularly those in the Power Four that are going to opt in at, $20.5 million. So I'm not hearing very many people. I haven't heard anyone say that a group, a private or a public group, has come to them and said that we'll invest in your athletics department just like we would another business. So that's anything is possible. 5 years ago we wouldn't have said today where we are is possible, but we're here.
No.
So anything is possible. But I think that athletics directors and presidents are going to find a way to make all this fit within their current operation. The troubling part about that, AP, is that it could cost some student athletes an opportunity to compete in intercollegiate athletics because, most athletics departments spend everything that they bring in. There's some that do a pretty good job of saving some, but most of them are pouring it back into the student athlete experience.
Right.
And to add $20.5 million on top of that makes it very challenging. So I don't hear that happening in real time right now. But as it becomes more palatable to people, you never know what could possibly happen there.
Right. Jay, as your experience, does the SEC approximately each school have about 20 sports around that number? Is that fair to say? Most schools in the SEC, something like that?
That's fair to say. Most have somewhere between 16 and 21. There may be somebody that's 22. I don't know who that would be. I haven't taken into account how many Texas and Oklahoma our newest members have, but generally speaking, we have 21 sports. Swimming and diving are counted two ways, men and women, and diving. But anyway, yes, 21 generally. About
that number, right? I know that when I hear some of the schools in the wind saying they're going to be short of money, I'm thinking if that school is short of money, no one has any money. I mean, because they're at the top level. So that's puzzled me to some degree. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you about the Olympic sports and the possibility that they might have to, curtail those teams, which would be a disappointment, I think. But Jay, what is the ramifications with Title IX? How would you characterize that with this House settlement and the NIL?
Well, Title IX is not going away. It's still a part of the Bill of Rights, and we're going to have to meet. Each institution's going to have to meet. Each athletics department got to meet the Title IX requirements. And so, unless Congress comes in and says something differently, but right now, all athletics departments are operating under the assumption that Title IX is going to be in place and as strong as it's ever been, and it should be. The first step would be athletics departments reducing budgets of all your sports. Okay.
Yeah.
Whether that is not as elaborate travel, even though a lot of these schools don't travel elaborately, maybe it's fewer staff. They'll do everything they possibly can to keep from cutting scholarships, keep from cutting opportunities for athletes. Then, I would suspect that the next thing would be which male Olympic sports do we really have to keep? Are we competing at the highest level in all of our male sports? Because we have to honor Title IX, and one way to honor Title IX is have fewer male sports. That would be tragic for a lot of young men that are trying to compete in intercollegiate athletics. It would be tragic for our Olympics, for the USA Olympic teams, not to have these student athletes as part of it. But to answer your question, AP, Title IX is still alive and enforceable, and we have to meet the different tests to make sure that we're in compliance with Title IX. And part of that is funding and opportunities and how we treat our male and female students, in this case, student athletes on our campus. So it's all part of the equation.
Right. Jay, as an athletic director, I always tell people when they ask me about women's sports and men's sports or Olympic sports, as an athletic director, if you can get a lot of people to your men's baseball game or your women's softball game or your gymnastics, they're contributing to the bottom line. We know that they're not making revenue like the men's basketball and football, of course, but you can do things to make it a positive for your university by having those athletes compete.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the exposure, the marketing exposure that athletics creates for the university, we couldn't afford that. If we were to say that we're going to get this much marketing, we're going to do this many headlines for our university, our athletics department, no one could afford to do that. But when you have gymnastics and volleyball and equestrian and soccer and whatever it may be, when you have all those going on all year long and they're in the news, that is publicity. That is marketing for your university. So yeah, of those 21 sports, only about 3 of them are operating above the line, 2 for sure. If you're really good at men's basketball and selling out and making the NCAA tournament because you're getting your shares there.
Yes.
But the rest of it is part of the holistic approach to what you're doing on your campus. And what we try to do, and particularly at Auburn, we want to be at everything. So we want to be good at everything. And you can just look around the country at these student athletes that the purest form of name, image, and likeness has come from these Olympic athletes, and the notoriety and the publicity they have brought their institution. You couldn't afford to pay for that. So even though from a business standpoint, having some of these sports does not make financial sense, but from a public relations and marketing and opportunity standpoint for young men and women to be a part of intercollegiate athletics, it's invaluable. So you can't put $1 on everything, but you can put, what is your culture and what do you stand for on everything? And opportunities is what this country was built on. And we believe that everybody should have an equal opportunity to compete in intercollegiate athletics if they meet certain, academic and competitive guidelines. We don't need to reduce those if at all possible. We just think the fiber, the things you learn as a student athlete, time management, dealing with people you don't normally deal with, critical thinking, running down the court and deciding how you're going to pass the ball or return a tennis ball, or make a tackle. I mean, all those things are vital to learning leadership, how to be a great young man and a great young woman as you move forward after college.
Original thought and critical thinking. Those are 2 things that are high on my list that we need in this world, Jay. Absolutely. Jay, we got a minute. Anything you want to bring up? We've got about a minute, Jay. Anything that we haven't mentioned that people should know?
Well, one thing, AP, is that you mentioned, the group we're with, AD Advisors. And we just published a study this past Friday about the transfer portal for men's basketball. We studied 14,000 student athletes that transferred. 65% of those guys that went in the portal dropped down a level or completely dropped out of basketball. 65%. And you can see that report, that full report on adadvisors.agency, adadvisors.agency. The point is that, let's look at data and make good decisions. Let's look at what is actually going on as opposed to what we think is going on. But 65% don't make it they don't stay at the level they are, and they drop down. And so oftentimes the grass isn't greener, and athletics departments need to create a human resource, a retention and relationship department. And that's what AD Advisors is all about, trying to help athletics department create that, to keep those men and women on your campus.
Hey, Jay Jacobs, AD Advisors, check them out if you need some support and to be informed. We really appreciate Jay being on the show. We're going to have him back again because we didn't learn enough, Jay. We got to learn more from you. So we really appreciate Jay Jacobs being on AP As We See It, and we'll be right back after these messages. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. God bless.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it, and we want to thank our guest. He was spectacular. Jay Jacobs, Auburn University Athletic Director Emeritus, founding partner AD Advisors. We learned so much from our discourse with Jay. We'd like to have him back to the show about the wild, wild west of college athletics, and I'm sure we will have him back. We're going to continue our discussion from our first segment just about the NFL draft. It's a fun experience if you've ever had a chance to be there as a fan. I mean, I cover it as a member of the media, but I've had some friends of mine at different places around the country participate as a fan, and there's hundreds of thousands of people. First time in Green Bay, legendary Lambeau Field, and I know it's going to be exciting. My first time. I'm looking forward to being in Green Bay, and it's a historic place in the world of American football. So Green Bay, Wisconsin, the 8 SEC players. You can look for all those interviews that we'll have on our YouTube channel, AP As We See It, and on our Facebook and Instagram and X accounts for the links. And of course, you can hear our broadcast on Spotify, but you can look for all our links to those interviews on our social media platforms. We will try to interview all the SEC players and some other surprises as well. But we want to just make note of the NFL drafts. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it makes the world go round because of the varying opinions and how players are perceived by teams and presidents and general managers and head coaches, assistant coaches, and owners. Because owners do get involved every once in a while. They have the prevailing vote to draft a player. So that does happen in the annals of the NFL draft. We've heard that in the past. But we wanted to bring up something that's new with the college football playoff. The times, as I understand, I think they're going to be about an hour earlier each college football playoff game, and we just want to give those times for those games. We just find that right now. See if we can find that right now. Yeah, they're going to be about an hour's difference, and we just want to make people aware. And I think I prefer being an hour earlier some of these games because they would go too late into the night. So I prefer the time being an hour earlier. We'll just start off with the first game would be the Cotton Bowl. That would be on a Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Central, December the 31st. We have on January 1st, the Orange Bowl, 11 a.m. Central. That's on a Thursday, 11 a.m. Central. The Rose Bowl, 3 p.m. Central. The Sugar Bowl, 7 p.m. Central. We have the Fiesta Bowl, which will be one of the semifinals. That those prior games were the quarterfinals. The Fiesta Bowl on the 8th of January will be 6:30 p.m. Central. And the Peach Bowl the following evening at 6:30 p.m. on a Friday, the 9th of January. The Peach Bowl, 6:30 p.m. Central. And the championship game on the 19th, which is a Monday, that's down in South Florida. And that will be 6:30 p.m. Central. So those are the times that were announced for the college football playoffs. That's the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and the championship game. So we would just like to give that information so people, as they're making their plans, they have as much information as possible. And we all know the college football playoffs is very, very important to our audience. So we try to keep abreast of that as well. Now, we want to delve into a topic it's been on the forefront of the media right now, the transfer of Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee to UCLA. He ended up signing with UCLA and committed to UCLA. And so Nico has left the Volunteers. We know that he stayed out of practice. He was looking for more money. That's the story. I tend to believe that's the story, really. Some people mentioned the offense. He didn't care for Josh Heupel's schemes, but I believe he was his camp. And that's what I would call his camp, his family. They were seeking more money with the NIL in Tennessee. And I'm going to discuss this in a minute. They said no. But anyway, so he's headed to UCLA. Now, UCLA, they sought a quarterback in the transfer portal, Joey Aguilar from Appalachian State. Now, Joey Aguilar, he was all set to probably be the starter at UCLA, but this dynamic changed and the scenario changed because Nico Iamaleava decided to transfer to UCLA. So what happens? Joey Aguilar is going to be the quarterback at Tennessee. Now, the Volunteer fans are thinking, well, what type of athlete and skills did Joey Aguilar have? He's from Antioch, California, and people probably maybe familiar with that town because Najee Harris played there as well. Joey played at a different high school, and then he played at Diablo Valley College, I believe it was, as well. But he's 6'3", 220 pounds. He completed 511 out of 850 passes in a couple of years at Appalachian State. That's 60%. Threw for 6,760 yards, 56 TDs, 24 interceptions. Last year in particular, 2024, he led the FBS with 14 interceptions. That's not a good stat that you would want to lead the country. So, but I think one thing you're reading about him, it said he had great anticipation. And I think that will help him in Josh Heupel's system. Because Josh Heupel, if you watch his teams play and the quarterbacks that he's retained on his roster through the years, their receivers get open in that offense. Now, whether you have the accuracy to put it in the receiver's hands, that's something different. But Josh Heupel, he has a system I like to watch, and some quarterbacks have been very successful. Hendon Hooker in particular, Joe Milton III, Nico Iamaleava. I think the last couple of quarterbacks, accuracy was not their forte. And in any system, especially one in Josh Heupel's where you're trying to anticipate the throws, accuracy is the prime skill that I would be looking for in my quarterback. Can he get it into the hands of the open receivers? Because there are plenty of them in Josh Heupel's system. Now, some people are looking at Josh Heupel. They're saying he's a hero for separating himself from Nico Iamaleava. Some people might consider him a villain, hero or villain. In my opinion, he's not a hero and he's not a villain. He evaluated the entire situation, the financing, the talent level, and he said, we're not paying more money. We had a contract and we were satisfied with the amount that was being paid to this quarterback from California, Long Beach, California, Nico Iamaleava. And just like Lane Kiffin the prior year, Quinshon Judkins, 2 times an all-SEC player, 2 times. He decided not to pay Quinshon Judkins. He went to Ohio State. I believe he received less money, but he won a national championship, had 1,000 yards. He entered the NFL draft. So it worked out for him as well. Ole Miss, they relied on other running backs brought into the program. But I think each coach moving forward, it's more professional now. You have a general manager. You're going to have to balance those figures. You're going to have to, pun intended, you have to figure out, should I pay the quarterback X amount of dollars? Or should I save it for a better left tackle or somebody that's transferring in as a dynamic wide receiver? Should I let this quarterback move on and reach out in the transfer portal for someone else? Like I said, I didn't consider Josh Heupel a hero or a villain. He made a decision. I think it was an accurate one for the Tennessee program, even though they didn't have a quarterback that was experienced. The quarterbacks that are in waiting, Jock Merklinger is a redshirt freshman, and George McIntyre is a true freshman. So they'll be competing for the position. But Josh Heupel, he made that executive decision not to retain Nico Iamaleava. And Nico came in with all the fanfare in the neighborhood of $8 million he signed for to become a Tennessee Volunteer. They made the college football playoffs. I think they made it in spite of him because they had that superb running game and defense that was the factors that led them to earn a berth in the college football playoff, which they were subsequently trounced by the eventual winner, Ohio State, by 25 points in Columbus, Ohio. And Nico did not have a very good game. The team didn't have a very good game. Obviously, lost by 25 points. We're not putting that all on the quarterback, of course. But another thing that happened in the SEC that Nico's brother, Madden Iamaleava, was originally committed to UCLA in December, switched to signed late with Arkansas. Now he's moving from Arkansas to UCLA. He's going to back up his brother. So that's kind of an interesting situation where the coach does not have to worry about the dad calling for the backup quarterback to play, because both their sons are probably the first and second string quarterback, even though UCLA has another recruiter too at quarterback that, they recruited him for a reason. Maybe they'll challenge, who knows? Strange things have happened at that quarterback position with injuries and just people emerging once they grasp the offense. But I just wanted to go over that scenario with the Tennessee quarterback, Josh Heupel. In college football, you're going to see people making decisions like Lane Kiffin did last year on the running back position 2 times an All-SEC performer. He didn't retain him. He wouldn't pay him the asking price. But this year it got more notice because it's a quarterback in the SEC and someone who came in with all the fanfare. So, but anyhow, we wanted to go over that and make sure people are aware of our feelings. We like to get that out there and give our opinion about it. But anyway, paying unproven athletes, I wouldn't recommend it. I would not recommend it, but that's what some people are doing. Everybody has their opinion. That's what makes the world go round in the world of college athletics. We would like to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets and Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, for our show, and come back next week for another episode of AP as we see it. Thank you.